Good afternoon, everyone. Country Flyboy here, and today, the final video in the Cessna 208 series. This one's going to be a little phoned in. Well, the last one was too. Mostly, we're just going to talk some differences between the various versions of the Caravan you can find out there. Of course, there's the default Caravan. We've been demoing the Carenado Caravan, which they have two versions, kind of sort of three versions of, and then there's also a Caravan Amphibian out there, which was the carryover from FS9. So we're just going to talk some differences between each one of them, and there are some differences between them, operational wise and various things. So real quick, we're just going to go over the differences. So the Carenado and the default Caravan, they're both Cessna 208Bs, which are known as the Grand Caravan. The 208B is 4 feet longer than the standard 208. Don't really worry about that because there's no standard 208s available for flight sim as far as I can tell. It's usually 208Bs or better. The 208B features a Pratt & Whitney PT6A 114A engine, produces 675 shaft horsepower as opposed to a regular 208's 600 shaft horsepower. Now, we did most of our flying in the Super Cargo Master version of the same aircraft. Super Cargo Master version is just cargo configuration as opposed to passengers. But remember, the 208 can be configured for passengers, cargo, or whatever. It can really quickly just take the seats out and boom, it's a cargo plane. It's a very versatile aircraft in that regard. Now, the default Caravan for a second. The default Caravan does have some differences over the Carenado one, though they are minor. You can get by with the default Caravan no problem. A 208 is a 208, and the procedures discussed in this series will work for the default. Personally, I think the default has some features over the Caravan, notably the emergency power handle. I don't know if it works, but you seem to be able to select an actual position as opposed to it just being a full on or full off in the Carenado one. The default Caravan has basically the same navigation equipment, 2 VORs and a GPS plus an ADF. The main difference is the GPS in the default is a pop-up window as opposed to Carenado's panel-mounted unit, but that's a pretty small difference. The default uses a GNS 500 as opposed to the GNS 430 on the Carenado. The default does not have a weather radar unless you've added one with a panel mod or active sky or something like that. So that's an important thing to note. The default Caravan won't bleed speed like the Carenado will either when the throttle is brought to idle. Remember that being a thing we talked about quite a bit during the landing videos? Yeah, the default doesn't seem to do that. There's also a more pronounced loss of power when using the inertial separator, as opposed to the Carenado, which didn't appear to do anything. With the default, there's a more pronounced loss of power, and it takes longer for it to get back up to regular operational power. Now, there is another Caravan available from Carenado that we haven't really gone over, and that is the Caravan EX. The 208B EX is an upgraded version of the 208B. It has a more powerful PT6A 140 engine, which produces 867 shaft horsepower. Now, this stronger engine is on the same airframe as the 208. There was no other real additional changes, which means the climb and cruise performance is improved by as much as 33%, but there are some drawbacks. The EX is 640 pounds heavier than the normal 208B. Higher fuel consumption on the same fuel tanks means that it has a reduced range. The EX's range is only 964 miles when you compare it to the 208B, which can go for 1,070 miles. A longer takeoff and landing roll is also required for the EX. Now, if you were to ask me which one should I purchase from Carenado, I would personally recommend the EX over the older 208B. It comes with much better documentation too, and the systems are way better recreated on it than the 208B. It uses a Garmin G1000 avionics suite, and Carenado's recreated it fairly well. It has TIS, TOS, and you can program in a flight plan in it, so it's pretty good, all things considered. Most of the features you'll use on a regular basis of the G1000, pretty much all of them are there. It cannot, however, load an airway a SID or a STAR, because it uses the built-in flight sim navigation data, so those things are not available. Can do approaches though. And lastly, I want to talk about the Caravan Amphibian. Now, the 208B Amphibian was available as a default aircraft in FS 2004. However, when Microsoft or Aces Studios made FSX, they completely rebuilt the 208 from the ground up, as far as I can tell. I mean, seriously, just look at the two. The FS9 default Caravan is way worse than the 208 from FSX. They look completely different. Now, unfortunately, they did not give us an amphibian version in FSX. You can download the FS9 208 Amphibian from freeware mod sites such as Simviation. Just search for 208 Amphibian. It looks horrid compared to the default Caravan. It's also severely lacking in features compared to the default Caravan as well, much less the Carenado one. But if you want to land on water with a 208, there is literally no other option. Seriously, Carenado or anyone else, none of them has made a 208 Amphibian. Nobody has. We still have to stick with this FS9 model. Why has no one made an Amphibian? Now, the Amphibian means it has retractable landing gear, so it can land on water or hard surface runways. Water, it uses pontoon gear down for a hard surface. Whilst technically possible, it is recommended to avoid soft surface fields with the Amphibian. Now, the floats and gear do add an additional 325 pounds to the empty weight of the Caravan, and flying float planes is a skill in and of itself. Also, the FS9 Amphibian had a hybrid configuration payload model, meaning it was configured for both passengers and cargoes at the same time. Remember I said that was doable in the first video? The Amphibian has 4 passenger seats, with cargo zones 3, 4, 5, and 6 available for cargo. There is no cargo pod on the Amphibian, and there are 2 pilot seats. The Amphibian, however, Caravan only requires 1 pilot to operate, so you can sit a passenger in the up front seat as well. And one minor bit of unrealistic behavior, you can turn the Caravan Amphibian using the rudder control on the ground, despite it not having a nose wheel and thus no nose wheel steering. IRL, I think the Caravan Amphibian relies heavily on its independent brakes to turn, but given it nose wheel steering in FS9 and by extension FSX was probably done for convenience reasons, but I don't think that's 100% realistic. And with that, the series is done. 208 being done minus 1 video that I decided to scrap. Sorry it took so long, things happen, and I know these last 2 videos kind of felt phoned in, but I really ran out of stuff to talk about with the Caravan pretty quickly. Next video, who knows? I got some special stuff planned, so anyway, hope you enjoyed it, and we shall see you next time. Take care, everyone.